News First, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And top of the morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And it was a fairly nice morning out there. Although I arrived too early really to take it all in because I was on Patikada. But it's a lovely day out there, and it really is invigorating to wake up and to live on a tropical paradise as we do here in lovely, beautiful, magical Sri Lanka. And the weather is in top form. And in top form, hopefully, is our guest this morning, who is going to discuss various matters that are, in effect, the talk of the town. And to do that, of course, is Mr. Keseralal Gunasekare. Very good morning to you.
Very good morning, Faraz.
Thank you very much for turning up here on time. And no traffic. It's brilliant, isn't it?
No traffic, no traffic.
Wonderful. Now then, point number one. The Island newspaper. Minded to seek a third term! Exclamation mark. Joint opposition to seek Supreme Court opinion via the District Court. So says the chairman of the SLPP, Professor J.L. Pires. Now then, what's going on? Does he have a right?
I can only laugh.
Really?
Very simple. I mean, this is hilarious, you know.
Yeah.
Seeking the ruling from a court of law. In the first place, Professor J.L. Pires needs to understand that Mahinda Rajapaksa has already contested on 3 occasions.
Right.
That is cardinal role.
Yeah.
He has already contested on 3 occasions. Then he says that the 19th Amendment of the Constitution does not apply to him. Because when that was promulgated, he had already contested. Therefore, it is for the future.
Right.
You cannot take anything to account.
As in what the professor is saying is that
yes,
it's only from the 19th onwards.
Correct.
It's not retrospective.
Correct. I want to ask him a simple question.
Right.
When it has right through been 2 terms, the president can be in power since 1978, can be there only for 2 terms.
Right.
When they move that famous or infamous 18th Amendment of the Constitution and said that he could contest more than twice, was it for the future or for the past? Very simple question. Very simple question.
And what was the answer?
Very simple. If he's on his own argument, then he wouldn't have been in a position to contest because it was for the future, not the past. And the other thing is, he has already, the law was very clear, it was 2 terms. And it's the infamous 18th Amendment of the Constitution which changed and removed that clause. And what they have done by the 19th Amendment of the Constitution is to reinstate that. That's all.
I'm a bit troubled because if you recall those heady days of the 18th, Mahinda Rajapaksa was flying high. Well, in parts of it's all right to fly high. It dispensed with the war and so on. Yeah, fine. But if you remember, and I believe, this is my personal opinion, that a matter like having to change the 2-term limit should have been put to the people. Churchill went to
correct. It should have gone before the people. And mind you, this is a situation where a person's ability to contest was restricted.
Yeah.
And it was to be removed, that clause to be removed. Now take the case of the present president going before Supreme Court with regard to reduction of powers.
That's
and the Supreme Court says, look here, there are certain clauses which you cannot reduce unless you go before the people.
But equally, Keseralal, there was yesterday I was listening to a little debate that 2 people were having. In that, sorry, in that one was saying, one took the position that it's the 19th Amendment, we live within the 19th Amendment now. And therefore, it is what is envisaged in the 19th Amendment that shall take place. And he then points out to the fact that President Sirisena sought an opinion from the Supreme Court on one aspect of the 19th Amendment, and that was about his term, the period. They ordered that, their opinion was that it was for 5 years, not 6 years.
Correct.
All right? And that's because they relied on the 19th Amendment
of the Constitution.
Right. Now, this argument, this is a flip side of
correct.
the argument.
That's correct.
Now the argument is, in this thing it says that no person shall contest more than, or shall not serve more than 2 terms. And in this, within this 19th Amendment, there is only the one president, because he's the first.
Correct.
That's President Sirisena.
Yes.
So the 2-term limit under the 19th Amendment will apply to him. And to anyone else who now comes forth. It forgets, it doesn't speak, it's silent about the past, because it doesn't talk openly about retrospective action.
Yeah, exactly.
So how would you look at that interpretation?
No, it's for us it's very simple. That discussion you said between two persons,
yes,
that is perfectly correct. What we have to understand is the law right throughout was 2 terms. Law,
so
right
you're not talking about the intent.
Yes, law right throughout was 2 terms.
Yes.
In the through the 18th Amendment, even without consulting the public of this country, they amended the Constitution to open it up and say any amount of times you can contest. By the 19th Amendment, you have reduced that and said you have gone back to the earlier situation of 2 terms, and that is valid. There is no way, no power on earth which can give an order and say no. It doesn't apply.
So the intent is obviously to restore what was happening before.
What was happened from 1978 onwards.
Indeed, and which was a 2-term limit.
Exactly. That was the view of the people as well, no? Because when it was changed in the 18th Amendment,
why are they so desperate to come back into power?
Maybe to serve.
To serve.
I don't know whom.
But they served for nearly 10 years.
Yeah. No, maybe there are certain situations, you know. I fundamentally feel the president had closed up and gone off after the 2015 elections. But the others, the hanger-ons, thought, no, we will not be able to survive without him, and therefore we need to bring him back. And if you look at the team around him, it's very clear that none of those people can stand up alone. None of those, without him.
Is this another gundu to save time, to spend time?
Correct. And it says district court, no? Is it?
Yes.
It says what has the district court got to do with constitutional affairs?
That's what I mean. It's another gundu. They're slipping and sliding in between everything else.
If pertaining to the Constitution, you have to go before the Supreme Court.
But can Minder go before the court?
If he wants to.
But Vijay Dasa says that he can't.
No, if anybody wants to go before the Supreme, it will be thrown out as a different issue. But they can go.
No, but can Minder make an application, and can it be? Do you think he get leave to proceed?
I don't think so. No say in a court is going to give that ruling. No say in a court is going to give that ruling. Very simple.
And there won't
I'm going by 2 aspects. Number one, the 18th Amendment of the Constitution, which changed the position without referring to the public, and the 19th Amendment of the Constitution, where the President wanted to reduce certain powers, and the Supreme Court said, no, you have to go before the public in that situation. It's very simple.
Now then, now I can understand why you start laughing when I asked you that question. God knows what the author of that will have to say about all that, Shaminda Ferdinando. But the Daily Mirror has got a different different headline.
Yeah.
And the Daily... about a Keith Noya. Okay, all right. Let's grant it to the former president. You can't be remembering every single journalist.
Of course.
But...
especially Keith Noya.
But Keith Noya, this case has been going on and on and on and on.
Exactly.
And it's regularly in the press and in the TV and so on.
Yeah.
And even if he didn't watch Sirsa, he would still become patently aware, because the channels that he does favor also carried the story.
Exactly.
So everybody,
all the channels, all newspapers, all channels carry.
So what are they frightened about? The fact remains that this journalist was kidnapped,
exactly,
and then taken somewhere and beaten up. And then we do know that a call was made to some higher up. And then miraculously, he's asked to go and have a wash, get dressed again, having been beaten up, and he was unceremoniously left somewhere in Devana. So what are they frightened about here? What are they frightened about? Frightened of getting caught? What about the Tajuddin case? What about Lasanta Vikramatunga?
I mean, I can see one thing, Faraz. I don't know whether it's correct for me to mention this, but I can see the tone of the former president, you know, in certain institutions, in situations where he has flared up on several occasions. Very recently, I saw him flaring up.
I don't know why he's not flaring up about this 19th Amendment.
Yeah, at his assistant, the former speaker's son. Mm-hmm. He flared up. I mean, that's not a good sign at all. You flare up in public, that clearly shows that there is something.
Yes, he said, he wasn't very polite about it, was he?
Yeah.
But, I mean, this president, Sirisena, should be really ticked off, because he's obviously been pushed into a very tight corner. He's been manipulated into that corner, and the people, I don't know about you, but if you voted for President Sirisena at that presidential poll, then you did so in the expectation, quite legitimately, that your vote will have him in office for 6 years. And instead, we've had the judiciary and the 19th Amendment both playing against this the people's wish. The people's wish was to have him for 6 years. If they wanted it curtailed, then I think, in my very simple opinion, that they should have gone to the people and asked that question.
That's correct. I totally agree with you.
And so, it's very clear when you look at this sad state of affairs. I see a hand of RW and MR.
It's a question to the Supreme Court. When they introduced the 18th Amendment of the Constitution, why didn't the Supreme Court intervene and say, if you are going to open it up, then you have to go before the people? That's a $1 million question that we can ask the Supreme Court now. What was the reason why they did not intervene?
They really ought to have done it.
They really ought to have done it, and they did not.
And that's it now, because they've made an order, we can't do anything about it.
No, that's correct.
Was there a full bench?
I don't know, I can't remember exactly.
Because the only saving grace, or the only thing that we can now rely on, is to go and ask for a full bench to hear it.
Correct.
Well,
that's correct.
There you are. So that's that.
What has flowed under the bridge? It's all over.
It's gone. But also,
you just mentioned about this Daily Mirror headlines. For us, I think I should mention something about Speaker waits for the clarification with regard to Vijay Kala Maheshwaran statement.
Yeah.
This is my view. I fundamentally feel that this is to some degree a witch hunt. Because you know why? Maybe
a witch hunt against whom?
Vijayakala. Very
But
simple.
Why do
because you know why?
one want to go on a witch hunt against
I
her?
totally agree that she shouldn't have made that statement. But the question is,
It's
on
not
the spur
helpful,
of
is it?
It's not helpful at all. But the question is, she has a right to say certain things. As to whether she violated the Constitution, I don't think she violated the Constitution. You know, there are so many occasions in this country, so many situations where certain people referred to certain people and said, look here, if that thug was available, none of these things wouldn't have taken place. There are so many instances where people have said certain things, you know. In certain localities where certain thugs, if they were available, none of these things would have taken place. So in the same manner, she has every right to mention that during Prabhakaran's time, whether that statement was right or wrong is a different issue, but she has a right to say that. That's not violating the Constitution. I don't think so. And I think that the Parliament made a mockery of this. What the Speaker had done was to caution Vijayakala Mahesh. That's all. That's the end of the story.
So why are they making a big song?
No, what she said was, she was referring to, of course, on the spur of the moment, because there was a child who was abducted and things like that, and maybe at that moment she lost her cool and said so many things. But I don't think her intention was that.
Was to call for a separate state.
No. That was not her intention. That's very clear.
Now then,
It must be fair by her as well.
okay. Now, how about being fair by the people? For example, we had the Presidential Commission of Inquiry looking into the bond. I know, it's boring, but
Here we
it's
go
not.
again.
Well, it's not about here we go again. I think it's fair to be able to explain to the people why we've now started something called Bond 2.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you care for your money that is held in trust and on your behalf by the Treasury, right, because they are the ultimate, then you will care about this. Keseralal, 2015 February, 1 billion became 10 billion. The interest rates went up by 3%. Now then, whilst this
1 billion became 15 billion, I think.
no,
15
10,
billion.
10 billion. The take-up was just over 10 billion. Now then, whilst this was all raging, there were constant assurances by the person in charge of the subject, the Minister of that National Policy Planning and Economic Development, under which the central bank was brought in and parked, Ranil Wickremesinghe. He didn't do anything other than to constantly assure the public through various pronouncements that there was no evidence of wrongdoing. Now, do you know what? He's absolutely correct, because he uses these lovely words, and the English language is so quaint. So we've got evidence. There is no evidence. But there was growing evidence, and he ought to have stopped, hauled in Mahendran and said to him, show me the file. Is your son-in-law involved or not? Don't come and tell me, oh, he's not in this board, when he's very much the beneficial owner, along with his daddy. Yeah? He didn't do that. So he allowed Mahendran to carry on. So they made a lot of money. Then comes the Presidential Commission of Inquiry. Their term, guess what? It finishes on the day that that last bond was issued, on the 31st of March 2016. So obviously they can't look into it. That's why we want to know. Thanks to the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, we found out all this information. Not only that Arjun's telephone ended up in the swimming pool in Singapore, yeah, and all these things, but we were fascinated by the telephone call between Arjun Aloysius and his CEO, in which Arjun did a better job than Sumanadasa, and he was able to say precisely how much these blessed rates were going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
unique personality.
Exactly. Now, that's why we're calling for this. Because the Presidential Commission of Inquiry said, look, we couldn't go into that.
Correct.
But we suggest a forensic audit.
Correct.
Now, this report was given to the President at the end of December 2017. Now then, and another thing, we mustn't forget that this didn't come directly like that. It went via another point. So we are told, okay, there were some pages missing apparently. We don't know. All these things keep going on about. But 7 months later, the central bank, sorry to say this, Dr. Kumaraswamy, the central bank have not given the contract out yet to carry out that forensic audit. After 7 months, I think it shows a shocking disregard for the people, to the commitment. There's no sense of urgency. Sorry, but this has got to be said.
For us, I think it's very clear. You don't need any forensic audit for this whole exercise. Two issues. I fundamentally feel, although you place the burden on various politicians, etc., I feel the people responsible for this whole scenario are the officials of the public debt department of the central bank. Now the question is, I asked this question in the presence of the President from the chief of the central bank, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, what action has he taken against officials who were involved in this famous bond scam? No action has been taken. There is no way for us that any minister or any politician can do anything they want without the agreement or the consent of the members of the central bank of this country. There is no way.
Absolutely.
There is no way. So if the central bank has been silent and continues to be silent on the face of exposures made with regard to two bond transactions, what more can we expect? Of rupees to one group of companies. What has the central bank done about those things? Very simple.
Hopefully they were not twiddling their thumbs. But now then, here is a valid point somebody is saying about what you've brought up about Vijay, right? And they say that normally they say, whatever it is, that if Gota was in power, it wouldn't have happened. Additionally, they say that the white van would come. So Vijay Kala's statement is also the same, in that same vein of what people just say. Thought we point that out because
that's a right throat. I've been holding that Vijay Kala's statement should not be taken that seriously.
Indeed, indeed. Another one says, who needs more protection from government, MR or RW? Does not RW need protection from the future government of MR from criminal prosecution on the bond scam? The thing is this, we are getting increasingly concerned as to what's happening. 7 months later, no forensics. But the Prime Minister and Malik Samaravikrama have become judge and jury, and
all rolled into one.
All rolled into one, and they've said, Tamba Satayak me ratata paduak vela naha. Yeah, right. Come on, get real.
They don't understand economics.
Well, to begin with, we don't have copper anyway in these things. Right? That's the technical bit. Who are they fooling?
Yeah.
What do the people think? What do you say to the people who have no, the Bandhu Jayasekara showed an image of a child crossing, to get to the road, she had to cross a little river. And there was no bridge or walkway. She had to balance on a fallen coconut tree.
It's called Edanda.
Right. Well, that's what she had to do. And in this country where we are talking about megapolis and all sorts of jolly things, and LRTs and central expressways and billion-dollar loans, and I mean, that's the other thing. There was nearly lighting firecrackers when they announced that they got a loan from China of $1 billion. But that was, and then of course they go and spend things like, you know, they have to be comfortable, because when you're seated doing nothing, you need to be comfortable.
You need poshy cars,
and you need posh chairs.
Posh chairs, yeah.
640,000 rupees per chair.
And not only that, he says it's not 642,000, it is 632,000.
Oh, come on. What's 8,000 between two friends, yeah? You know, every bit of these things here affects the people.
It affects the people.
It affects the people.
For us, it's very simple. When the politician does not realize that the majority of this country falls under the category of poor people, majority of the people of this country, they need to be mindful of the fact that all these people are suffering fundamentally. Therefore, they must do away with luxuries.
Yes.
They have to do away with luxuries. We don't want luxury vehicles, you don't want luxury buildings, etc. We've
got 4 minutes. We've got 4 minutes. And I'll ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is the name of the Attorney General? Do you know?
Mr. Jayasuriya, yes.
Jayanta Jayasuriya?
Yes.
No. Now I'm going to tell you something. Our judiciary, this is another viewer, by the way, says that our judiciary has no honor and it doesn't have any shame. The shameless Attorney General can take swift action against Vijayakara, right? But is ignoring the infamous or the famous bond scam. I say to Jayanta Jayasuriya, shame on you. Either take action or come out openly and tell the public why you are precluded from taking that action. Why are you sitting in your chair and turning it into a chair of do nothing? And I know that your chair didn't cost you 632,000.
For us,
what's happening? What's going on?
For us, that statement that our judiciary should be shameful, I don't want to comment, because I don't want to be hauled up before a court of law. They need to go through, they need to go through some of the judgments that they have delivered during the last 20 odd years and assess for themselves as to what they have done. That's all. That's all.
It's sad, isn't it?
It is sad.
It's really sad.
It is really sad.
It's so sad, especially when you go to rural Sri Lanka and you see the level of poverty.
No, of course.
And the level of hardship, where they have to walk
miles and
miles just to get some water. Yeah. And we
are living in that country.
And we are living in that country.
And we're worried about posh vehicles, plush cars, plush buildings, everything.
Jaguars for the chap from Kurunegala.
Oh God.
Maybach for some others.
It's very clear. People who come into this position, when they don't have money, and no sooner they see the color of money, they change. Everything changes.
Somebody is saying that Kashan Palisiana used to call himself on Facebook as the, quote, knight with a capital K. But he was no knight in shining armor, was he?
He was definitely not a knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
He pretended, not only him, even Arjun Alashas, right throughout pretended so many things.
Yes, but what do you think they're feeling now? Especially Arjun. His father-in-law's abandoned him. He is in the remand prison. He's also abandoned his daughter to cope with all these things, and he remains a fugitive from justice in this country, and is rumored to be in Singapore or in the Middle East or wherever he is.
The question is very simple.
Isn't it a failure of this? Isn't it the failure of this system, this culture in Sri Lanka, where we have the elder
Yeah, it is definitely a failure. You have to understand, we don't have systems in this country. If you had systems in the country, none of these politicians could get away.
Okay, sir, I have to disagree with you. We have systems in this country. It is just that they are not implemented because, quite frankly, this whole government's hallmark has been a departure from due process. Please understand how simple that is. No, it's a departure from due process. Then you have conflicts of interest and all sorts of things.
In fairness, it's not an easy exercise. In fairness to the government, I must say, for us, they have brought in very, very certain good measures. I mean, 19th Amendment of the Constitution is a move in the correct direction. The move in the correct direction of good governance. But unfortunately, we are not in a position to establish that because we don't have a set of people to establish that. That is what is wrong.
Mahendran sat there at the Commission of Inquiry, a few seats away from where I was sat, and he diligently took notes down.
Yeah.
And he wore the most crumpled suit that he could find in his wardrobe, perhaps to mitigate the 2 million jacket or whatever it was. Who cared? But he sat there, and I was with Mr. Rusripal, and we couldn't help notice he kept making notes and all that, as if he was this paragon of virtue. I think he's a shameful man with very little honor. Even though he was an Oxford man, he's not acting like an Oxford man. He should be here. If he is innocent of all charges and claims, he must be here and defend himself.
For us, it's an insult to those institutions like Oxford, the way some of these people who get themselves educated in those institutions operate in this country.
But Oxford doesn't only produce people like Mahendran. It also produces people like the one and only Imran Khan. 22 years into his journey, he ends up as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And what a jolly good chap he is. He's just announced that his 500 plus staff will be, servants he calls them, will be reduced to 2. Now, that's leadership.
Certainly.
And he's a product of Oxford, so there you go. You do have a bad...
You start from the top, everything will evolve in line. That's very important. That is what we need to understand. The top has to change, and then everything changes.
Do you know what? We've finished our time.
Is that
Control room saying to me that we've finished, and I think they want to go and have their tea and get ready for the next program. But Keseralal Gunasekare, thank you very much. And we are up front and we are open in what we say out here, but we do. And
we don't fear anybody.
We don't fear anybody. But I was wondering why...
We said the right thing.
But I was wondering why you were laughing when I asked you about whether Minder can have a third...
Oh, it's a laugh. It's a joke.
It's a joke.
It's a joke.
There you go. You get even jokes on Newsline. Take care. God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.